Garrett's Games and Geekiness is sponsored once again this week by 7ea Games. 7ea Games with the brand new second edition of Suburbia, as well as the Suburbia expansions. Head over to BezierGames.com, that's BEZIER Games.com, to get your copies now. And of course, while you're there, get Maglev Metro and Whistle Stop and Whistle Mountain and all of the One Night Ultimates. BezierGames.com, that's BEZIER Games.com. Garrett's Games and Geekiness, episode 769 for Sunday, March 28th, 2021. Welcome to the 769th episode of Garrett's Games and Geekiness. My name is Doug Garrett, coming to you from Mountain View, California. And on this episode, Shelley and I delve into some painting and get our Viscounts on. It's Canvas, designed by Jeffrey Chin and Andrew Nerger from Road to Infinity Games, as well as Viscounts of the West Kingdom, designed by Shem Phillips and S.J. McDonald from Garfield Games. So how you doing, Honey Bunch?
Fantastic. We're having a great day, aren't we?
We are having a great day. So it is early March when we're recording this, and it is a beautiful sunny day. We decided to head over the hills. We live on the peninsula in Northern California, and there are hills that would take you over to the beach. So we headed over there. And our first attempt to find a cool place to go walking along the Devil's Slide was all full.
Yeah.
So we kept on driving up Highway 1 and went to Pacifica and walked along the beach and watched the surfers and
watched all the dogs and just watched the beach. It was lovely.
And went to though we didn't eat there, went to what has to be the coolest Taco Bell ever.
I know,
right
you think Taco Bell.
Oh my God.
How can that be cool? Imagine
deck right on the beach.
like the view, $1 million view.
Yeah. Well, you're eating a $1.20 taco if you're going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, we just got to drink.
We just got to drink so we could use the bathroom. But
to
it
be
was
nice,
great. Yeah, exactly.
But they have a very nice bathroom, too.
Yeah. And instead, we came back over the hill and we got falafels at a place in Sunnyvale. And oh my God.
Good.
First time we've had those in like 8
Forever.
or 9 months. I think
since
the summer or something like that. But
that's true.
Oh my goodness, that was fantastic. So it's been a good day, and we've got a couple of interesting games to talk about.
Definitely.
I think one that is very beautiful and a solid entry middleweight game that I think doesn't rise to greatness, and a game that I literally hated the first time I played it, but I have come to
really like it now,
and actually maybe even
enjoy.
But
the first play was when you will talk about why it was so painful.
Exactly.
But, Benny, this is why we don't, play a game once, right?
Exactly.
We play games multiple times so we can say, does it hold up? Does it outstay its welcome? And what is the learning curve and all these other factors?
The initial...
You maybe have a bad hand or whatever. And so we play them multiple times so that we know for sure if we like something or if we know how we can recommend it and also how to play it, right?
Right, exactly. So the first one we'll talk about is the lighter of the two games, and that is Canvas. This is, as I said, a game for 1 to 5 players, 14 plus on the box, which is what they do with most U.S. produced games. Says 30 minutes as well, and certainly you can get a game.
And this was
under
Kickstarted.
30 minutes. This was Kickstarted.
And I remember you showing me the video, and I was like, "Yeah, you got to get it."
Yeah, because I mean, even the box is really cool. You could hang it on the wall. It's actually
stunning.
Can work as a picture.
I think it's a very good game for what it is for sure.
So it's Jeffrey Chin and Andrew Nerger. Is I believe how you say his last name, and Road to Infinity and Road to Infamy Games. It is a game where you are painting pictures, and it uses those transparent plastic cards, if you will, that we see in Mystic Vale and that we've seen in a game like Gloom from even further back. And what you are doing is drafting cards and also then layering those cards together to create a painting to have particular symbols or items that are that particular game's requirements to score points.
Right.
You are going to paint 3 paintings over the course of the game. So you have the backgrounds of those, which are nicely sleeved and have kind of an impressionistic / expressionistic background that you've got.
Some pastel colors mixed in unique ways.
Yeah, and then you have on the plastic cards different painting elements that have everything from realistic to surrealistic elements on it, fantasy to realism, and so on.
You might have books, you might have birds flying in the sky, you might have all kinds of different things to make a painting.
Right, a painting of Freddie Mercury.
Or something. Which we call Freddie Mercury, which was just a man in a ballet type of clothes, and then with definitely having a mustache.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
he
looked like one of Freddie Mercury's videos.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you have little palettes that you can place out to forego the painting that is furthest left. So this is used in a lot of different games where you have a certain number of these painting elements cards that are out on the central board, and there are 5 of them that are available at any one time, and you can pass up the first one or however many you want, as long as on those that you are not taking from the furthest left, you place one of these palettes, and you can place those. And then, of course, if you collect one on a subsequent turn that has some palettes on it, those would be available to you going forward.
That's, like you said, that's a typical type of game mechanism. So you could take the newer ones that come out or the better ones, but you have only a few number of these paint palettes. So, yeah. So once they're gone, you're going to be taking the last painting, or you're going to be trying to take a painting that has a bunch of the palettes on it, so you can do something in the future.
Right. Everybody takes those paint palettes, which they call in the game inspiration tokens, and you get 4 at the beginning of the game. And you are going to be then doing this drafting. You have at the top of the main board then 4 possible scoring opportunities. And you are going to be playing over 3 rounds, since you've got 3 background paintings. So you're going to be creating those 3 paintings. You can have no more than 5 of the art element cards in your hand. And when you reach at 5, you must create a painting using 3, no more, no less, of those art
I
element
often wanted to try
plastics.
to put another card in there.
Yes. And then along the bottom, there are usually 2, and I think it's only 2, but 2 art element types that are in the 5 different colors: red, yellow, green, blue, and purple, that are little swatches of color that have different iconography, either shapes or they could have a scoring that tells you, in this painting, if you have, you get a point for every one of a particular shape, or you get a bonus score that gives you that. But then across the top, you have 4 possible ways of scoring, and they are labeled as variety or repetition or emphasis or composition. So words that are associated with art and associated with painting, and then it might be you have one of each of the 4 different types of symbols that are on that particular painting. If you do, you get a little ribbon for that painting because of that particular card has been met. Or it's maybe 2 of the same symbol, or it's 1 of the color swatch, the rainbow color swatch, or you've got all 5 of the colors that are down across the bottom. And each one of these, the first time, if you were to get it on just one of those paintings, it's going to be worth a certain number of points. If you have it on 2 of those paintings, it's going to be more. And if you're able to achieve that on all 3 of your paintings, it's going to be even more at the end of the game.
So yeah, it definitely behooves you to try to, if you can, get those banners, more of them, because the more you get, the
more of the ribbons, right?
The ribbons, because you're going to score a lot better than if you just get a 1 point thing,
Right.
instead you're getting maybe 6 or something like that.
Yeah. So, for example, the one that is called repetition, where if you get 2 triangles, or for every 2 triangles, I should say, that is on a particular painting, you're going to get one of those ribbons. You would get 3 points if at the end of the game you have 1 ribbon. You get 7 points if you've got 2. You get 11 points if you've been able to do 3. And you get 16 points if you're able to do 4 of those. So you notice that you'd have to have, 4 triangles on a particular painting, and that would give you that action twice, or that
right. So
scoring
you
twice.
could have a painting that does very well for you, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can have a painting that doesn't do very well for you.
Yeah. And now, of course, as with any game, and one of the things that I think, I think this is a very nice game. I think it's very beautiful.
I like it. It's very, very pretty.
But I think that it is a good and not a great game because, of course, though it doesn't outstay its welcome.
No, because it's so short. That's what I like about it.
Right. But the luck of the draw certainly does come into play.
It is a factor. But what I appreciate about this game so much, of course, is the beauty.
Right.
It is stunning. I mean, you're making these paintings that come out different each time.
Yeah.
And it even creates a title for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, artistically, it is things, just quite a stunning thing. Yeah. And just the fact that you can hang it up on the wall and it's not ugly. You wouldn't mind hanging that on your wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. I mean, some people probably be like, no, that would be tacky. But for a gamer, it wouldn't be tacky.
Right.
I mean, I would easily hang this up. But I think it is very beautiful, and the mechanisms of play are so straightforward.
Yes.
That it's something that we could pull out at any time before a meal, possibly,
for sure. Yeah.
and just play play it because it goes very quickly.
Yeah,
you only have 5 cards to see.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to be like, oh, I'm not knowing what to do. And inside the rule book, they have a starting recommendation, which I think is a good one because
for the 4 scoring
for the
cards.
First a set of scoring, because it does usually, it was very fun. I mean, it was doable. You felt like you could make paintings that would fit the rules.
Yeah.
And then there's other suggestions in the rule book too, which maybe you want to challenge yourself spatially. So it gives you cards that recommends it for that, or ones that maybe are different types of elements.
Yeah. It's interesting that they make these suggestions. We did try it once where we just shuffled up and did it random, and it did feel like things got bogged down. Or it wasn't
as fun as doing, I think, some of the prescribed ones that they mention. And we've only tried, I think, 3 of the prescribed ones. So it will definitely be fun, I think, for me to try some of the other ones.
But, as I said, and I just want to reiterate that the qualm that I have is that you really are, depending upon what is scoring and then how those cards come out, the art element cards come out, it is possible to be very fortuitous, something's very fortuitous for you. And or it's like, wow, the thing that's scoring, Shelley just took the last one that has any of that symbol on it, and now I can't get it, and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that'll happen.
And also, getting the paint palettes is or the element, whatever, the thing that allows you to skip cards and take stuff. Once you're out of those, you have to only take the first card that's available. And so that happened to you in one of the games. So it wasn't as fun for you because I just kept all of those.
Well, I mean, the one thing that I would say that the game lacks and that games of this sort tend to have is an ability to flush what is available in the draw.
You could add that.
Yeah, but then you're left with the problem of what happens to
you're adding more luck. Yeah. You're adding more luck when you do that too.
Right. Well, you're adding, yes and no, because if there's nothing out there that really works for you, if it maybe cost you 2 paint palettes to do something like that.
And you'd have to give them to your opponent.
You'd have to give them to your opponent
directly,
or something like that. Yeah. Then that would be an added twist, which might make it so that, now new stuff, at least it's a little bit more fortuitous of what's out there for me. And I can, that's kind of the one little
I think that isn't
thing.
Actually a potential, because then you could say, like, with all of the paint palettes that are still on the cards, well, then those get divided up evenly. or something like that. So you would still have some and the other player would get some. So they wouldn't really be that upset. Though
but
the
it
flushing,
costs you, but you have to give 2 or 3 to,
I like that.
Your opponents or, one to each of your opponents.
That's a very good
like
suggestion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is there are so many ways to look at this game. It's a very simple game. Right.
Oh, yeah. Very straightforward.
But, you could play this with family. You could, and you can be celebrating the piece of art, not necessarily all the points. So, I mean, it could be something that I could see going pretty well in a family situation.
Right. Of gamers and non-gamers mixed.
Yeah. Because look at the painting I made and look what it's called. They have really neat titles when it's done. And there's whales jumping and boats and different elements and it doesn't outstay its welcome because it is very short. But it is a very simple game. It's hard to do well at based on the luck factors of what cards come out. Yeah,
sure. So again, this is Canvas from Jeffrey Chin and Andrew Nerger. The illustration, I should say, is by Luan Hyun. And graphic design also by Jeffrey Chin. So, I think it is a really solid game with my little house rule. This would take a step up.
We're definitely playing this week with that new house rule because I like this idea of you giving me stuff. Because I'm probably not going to flush anything. You give me things, then we split up what's up they split the pallets. I think we're all happy.
That might work.
Yeah,
okay.
I like that.
All right. Before we can move on, remember to head over to Bezier Games and get your new copy of the second edition of Suburbia, just out now. BezierGames.com. All right, second game is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Yes, another one of the Shem Phillips games. This one,
they
Shem
have the
Phillips,
same art, right?
Yeah,
Every
and
time,
S.J. McDonald with the illustrations by Mahajlo Dmitrievsky. And you know these games because they have a very distinct art style and they all either fit in the blue boxes or in this case, this is one of the red box games. Architects of the West Kingdom was another one that was in this series. And I will say, the first time we played this,
we both were not happy.
No, we were not happy at all. There were some rules that were less than perfectly clear,
right?
In a couple of situations that weren't clarified nicely in the rule books, and it should have been. For example, there's a token that you can get at one point, and it has everything that scores points has a little flag kind of draped over the top of it,
right?
But that symbolism is nowhere to be found anywhere in the rule book for this game. So I was looking online trying to figure out what exactly this meant, and it just wasn't clear. And so that was very frustrating.
We had a few instances where things were not clear.
Exactly.
Sure.
And so our first play of this as a 2-player game from sitting down and it was already set up. So rules teach and play was over 4 hours long.
Which is too long for us for pretty much most any game 2-player.
Oh, well, that's a game killer.
For us.
Given the fact that on the box, what does it say? Let's see. Hang on. Oh, it's on the back side of the box. 60 to 90 minutes is what it says.
So when you're coming in with that expectation, you're not going to be too pleased.
Yeah. I will say that 60 to 90 minutes is a lie for 4 players for sure.
But in our repeat plays of this game, no problem. We could do it in an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. 2 players knowing the system, getting it down, and playing it kind of back to back as we did. So it's not like we had to relearn anything. Already set up, starting to play. So it takes a little bit to set up. Yeah. Already set up, starting to play. It took us at least 75 minutes. All right. 2-player. 4-player, there is no way you're going to get this done in 90 minutes, especially for a first play.
I can't. Oh no,
I can't see it.
And also
so that's frustrating.
So we had to, we played it the one time we were both just not happy, right? Ugh. So then then we waited a day.
Right.
And so that we could have a good positive attitude to reapproach it.
Right.
And
still
we
have
knew,
it fresh.
And still have it fresh. But we knew exactly what we needed to do to progress the game. This was the problem. I didn't fully understand how to progress it.
Yeah.
So it just dragged on and on and on. And I was just kind of like, when is this ever going to end? Yeah. But now, once you know how to progress the game, then you will enjoy it a lot more.
But the question I have here at that spot is, are you meant to try to force the game to progress?
Yes.
Or, well, yes, I know you are.
You have to.
But should the goal of progression should not be what you are trying to do? You're trying to win.
Sure.
The game.
And enjoy the game.
Of course, in the process.
Right.
But it really felt like, and I think it's still a problem in my opinion, that it felt like, okay, in order for this game not to be painful, we are both going to work to progress the game fairly quickly.
Right.
And there are paths to take and so on, but that should not be the primary focus of a game.
No.
And it frustrates me still because of
that. And you'll talk about how to play this game, and it is interesting for sure. But some people don't mind spending half a day or whatever playing a game. That's more, but for us, knowing that, maybe we want to do something for a couple hours and then we have to do work or whatever, there's something else that you have to do, like eat and stuff. And I don't eat and play games. I don't like to do that. I think that you should give food your undivided attention. And I also feel that way when I'm playing a game, that I'm paying attention to the people that I'm with and the game and the fun of the event.
Sure.
So, there's things that life happens. So for us, something under 2 hours is more ideal. Yes. And we can do that with this game, but but you have to work to do that. And I agree with you that having to work for that isn't sort of why we play games.
Right.
Yeah.
So this game is a deck building game.
Right.
So a lot of these games in this series have been a worker placement oriented, but this one is definitely a deck building game.
That's true, yeah.
Each player starts with, I believe it's 8 cards in their own color for a deck. So they all are the same type of people. And then you draft a set of 2 cards, 2 different types of cards from last player to first player that are placed out. And there's 2 per player that are out there. So you have more potentials for what you're drafting from than, of course, that there are players. So then you're going to have a deck of 9 cards. That other card that you're drafting gives you a starting set of resources, and then you flip it over and it tells you what the scoring possibilities will be for the game.
So you have that with you and you know what to do. That's good. Yeah.
You have then a player board in front of you on which you have 9 buildings, 3 sets of 3 different types of buildings. Those go across the top of your player board. And then along the bottom of your player board is where you're going to be placing the cards that you are drawing from your deck. Because what happens on a turn is you have a set of cards in your hand that is initially 3, and you are going to play a card in the leftmost slot on your board after sliding all of the cards that are currently on your board, and there are 3 that go on the board. To the right, anything that falls off goes into your discard pile. And these cards have symbols on them that are associated with the actions that you can possibly do. They also possibly, when played, give you some resources, or when they get discarded, they possibly give you an action, or they give you an action while they are on your board. So all of those things are possible with these types of cards. There is then the main board, which has various locations, and there are 4 actions that you are going to be doing on your turn. When you play that card, there is a numerical value in the upper left corner, which is also how much it might be to purchase that card, or that you will get if you destroy or get rid of that card in the game in coins. Okay. But that number also tells you how far you are going to move your Viscount around the board to various spots. And you start at a particular spot and then you're moving around the board doing the various actions that are associated with the particular spots on the board. There are 2 actions associated with spots that are in the outer part of the board, right. And there are 2 actions that are associated with spots that are on the inner part of the board next to this 3D plastic piece, which is the castle that it kind of connects the board segments, which can be mixed and matched to make for, a different variety in the game.
It's a good look, and it's not overly busy or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what are these actions? Well, so the symbols that are on the cards once you've played them are associated with blue bags, which is getting resources, gray hammers, which is building buildings, yellow fleur-de-lis, which is adding meeples to the castle.
That middle section.
The middle section,
about,
exactly.
Right?
Or black crosses, which is associated with collecting manuscripts.
Right.
So on the outer ring, you have these spots that are particular to how you'd spend the blue bags that might be on your cards. So it might say, for every blue bag that you have on the cards that you have in front of you, you will get a coin. Mm-hmm. Or for every 2 blue bags, you're going to get a particular resource, stone or gold or inkwells. It might say for every 3, you are going to be able to destroy a card or something like that.
For every, 4, you might be able to
deal with debts or deeds.
Basically,
yeah, because debts and deeds are a key part of the game as well. These have shown up in other versions of Shem Phillips's games, the debts and the deeds. They are similar in that debts come in and would be -2 points if they don't get flipped over at the end of the game. If they do get flipped over, right at that point when they do, you immediately get a resource. Deeds are worth 1 point, or if they get flipped, 3 points at the end of the game. These 2 sets of cards, debts and deeds, are also the thing that controls game end, because the game only ends when either the stack of, depending upon the number of players, debts or the stack of deeds is completely exhausted. And once that happens, you finish the round, and then have one more round, and that is the end of the game.
Right.
So you're doing these actions. So as I was saying, the blue actions are about possibly flipping those debts or deeds or getting resources. The second thing that you can do in the outer ring is use gray hammers. Oh, and I should say, you can also add money, coins, to your action of the blue bags. And that's the thing with all of these. They all have an associative resource that allows you to bolster how many of a particular thing you have. So with the blue bags, where it's resources, it's however many blue bags are on your cards, plus however much money you want to spend. And that's how much you spend in multiples to get whatever the spot is.
There's also a wild that could be used as a bag or a cross or anything like that too, which I know you're going to talk about, but that's a possibility as well.
The second area in the outer spot, depending upon where your Viscount is stopped, is the ability to, instead of you doing the blue bag action that right at that spot, you can instead do the gray building action to build one of your buildings using 3, 5, or 7 hammers plus stone resources. So those resources are connected with the hammer symbol. Gray stone, gray hammers. So everything is color-coded in that way.
Yeah, that part's nice.
Yeah. Now you must always move your Viscount as far as that number on the card that you've played, but you can pay coins to move further, and you must follow the arrows that are on the board as you move, possibly. So if I'm in the outer area, I could move possibly 1 to the next outer area spot. Or if I play a 2 card, maybe I have to move to the inner and then move to the outer to get to that same outer spot. So it is possible to get to a particular spot multiple ways, but you have to be attentive to that.
And you are paying attention to how far you're wanting to travel because you're trying to get to certain locations for certain reasons, obviously.
For sure. Yeah. The 2 interactions are associated with the yellow fleur-de-lis and the black cross. Yellow fleur-de-lis, also the resource gold, however many fleur-de-lis plus gold that you can spend. You then are going to spend 1, 3, 5, or 8 of those yellow items and place your meeples onto the castle. And this is a little convoluted. You place however many it is, and if there are at least 3 of your own on a particular spot on the castle, then you're going to move 1 to the left spot, 1 to the right spot from where you are, and then 1 up 1 step onto the next tier of the castle, usually getting some type of action or benefit. Yeah. If that still happens, or if there is ever, as you're doing this, 3 now in a new spot of your color and only your color, you then do again 1 to the left, 1 to the right, 1 up, 1 to the left, 1 to the right, 1 up.
And this happened so many times for Doug. I was just like,
well, that was kind of the thing I was focusing on for one of the games.
Right.
And so that happens. If after all of those 3 in your own color movements are done, if there's ever more than 3 regardless of color, in a particular spot on a tier, then the person who's doing the action gets to choose which one gets bumped out. If a thing gets bumped out, it is going to get a certain number of coins or some other resources and stuff depending upon the tier that it's in. You can never get bumped out of the 3rd or highest tier. So that's the yellow action. And then finally, there's the one that Shelley loves to do, which is the manuscript collection action, which is, depending upon the spot you're in, there are stacks of manuscripts, and you're going to be paying between, I think it's 3 is the starting one, up to 7, or maybe even 8.
Pretty expensive.
And they immediately give you a resource, or they have endgame scoring, and they also are a set collection type of thing for the endgame too. I should say right now with those 2 actions, so as I'm saying, there's this set collection for different colors of manuscript ribbons, because there are 4 different colors of manuscript ribbons. That happens. There are also Abbey building cards that are associated with each of those 4 colored ribbons. And if you collect 3 of the same during the game, you get that Abbey building card, and that will be scoring at the end. The same thing or a different one works for the castle. The first person to get into the castle, the top of the castle, gets a castle scoring card, which also gives you the ability to have an extra card in your hand for to draw, because at the end of your turn, you're going to draw back up to initially 3. You could have 4, and there's even a building that you could build, which would allow you then to have 5.
Which I definitely think
you want to do
that as quickly as possible. We've done it where we haven't, but
right. Yeah. But the castle can make it so that that can go back and forth, kind of like Catan Longest Road, if somebody gets more of their meeples at the top of the castle.
So much effort to get them in there. You were always really good about doing that.
It's one of the
things that you can focus on for sure.
Once you have done your action, then depending upon the section of the board in which your Viscount is standing, regardless of whether you're on the outer part or the inner part, you have the ability then to possibly purchase the top card from a stack of character cards. That card will go into your discard pile if you are able to, if you wish to purchase it, again with coins. Then, and here's another little weird bit, you have in the middle of your player board this black and white cylinder. And these, depending upon card actions and other things, move towards the center. So the white moves to the right. Sorry, the white moves to the left and the black moves to the right. When they come into contact, you're going to then score that here at the end of your turn. And not only will you then get debt or deed cards, so this is the main way that debt and deed cards come into the game, but also your opponents possibly will get a debt or a deed card, or they may get to move their white or black pawns.
It's less valuable for the...
But everybody else gets something usually.
Right. Yeah. Right. And this was the thing that I didn't really process the beginning. So this is the main way to make the game end.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep focusing on that track to make the game progress.
Yeah, you do want to keep those moving together and then getting those things.
The other way that you make the game progress, you know how when you're playing a deck building game, when you buy the card initially and it goes into your discard pile, at a certain point, it's boring to do that because you know you're never going to get to use the card. It's never going to become a part of your hand because it's so late in the game.
Right.
What's great about this, what the designer did for this game, is there are actions or benefit that you get on the cards when you buy them and put them into the discard. It may make that black marker move or the white marker move to progress the game.
Right.
So even if you know you're not going to be, because there's no victory points on these cards, right? Unless you have something, unless you have a manuscript that allows you to get some victory points through those cards, you really, you're not going to get any victory points. So it doesn't do you really any good just to buy a card for no particular reason.
Sure.
But if it gives you something that progresses the game or gives you something, even though you're never going to use the card, then you're willing to buy it.
Right. Yeah. So that's a really good point, that those cards, when you take them after initial purchase, you get some action usually associated with it.
Yeah, and that's sometimes why you're buying it, because you know you're never going to actually get to use the card.
Right, exactly. Now, the buildings that you can build all add and modify different aspects of the turn. So we mentioned the one that allows it so that you can have an extra card when you do in your hand for when you're drawing back at the end of your turn. There's one that makes it so that you can just discard a card whenever you purchase one. There's another that allows you to move further with your Viscount. And then other buildings that make it so that you have more of particular symbols automatically when you do a particular thing.
So you could get more resources or a couple building icons, so you'll be able to build more easily.
Right, exactly. The 2 bags or one of each of the building fleur-de-lis or cross icons that would be already there, coupled with any that are on your cards. The buildings then, depending upon how many of each type that you build, if you build 1, 2, or all 3 of a particular type of building, that's going to score at the end of the game. But I should say, and this is one of the key, another way that things advance is you have in your hand at the start a thief card, which has a purple skull on it. Mm-hmm. Purple skulls are what Shelley was talking about a while ago, which is a wild icon. So a purple skull can be any of the action symbols that you might be using on a particular turn. And whenever you play a card with a one or more purple skulls on it, you count all of the purple skulls that are on all of the cards that are in front of you on your play area, and you move your corruption black token that many spaces to the right. So that's another way, possibly, if you're getting a lot of those thieves and other corrupt officials into the game, when you play them, you can then trigger that movement of those corruption, or actually it's just the corruption marker.
I think that's one of the interesting things to get your head wrapped around, is that you think you don't want to corrupt, right? But you have to move these markers to progress.
Right.
And that's going to be your wild symbol. So it's going to give you more options every time you have your 3 cards available to use. Even if there's only one wild symbol, it can be whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it tends to be you go through rounds where, okay, I have my 4 cards because I got that building taken off. So I'm going to be just placing all of my ones that give me lots of bags so that I can have a big just resource collection.
Yeah.
And then your cards are going to be such where, now I can do I'm going to go and manuscript. Or
you did that very successfully in the last game that we played.
Well, but I mean, that's what you're kind of doing is flowing through your cards
in that way. It helped to then
way.
have collected a bunch of those blue resource bag characters and then to get the manuscript that gave you points for having blue resource bags.
So there's definitely some of that going on for sure.
Yeah. Though, I mean, but here, for example, is a problem that I had with the game. There is a symbol that is something that you see on a lot of the cards, which is a green card with an X through it. And what it says is that you either discard one card from either your hand or draw pile. Now, if you have no draw pile, you may shuffle your discards to discard from it. This is always optional. Great. That seems like a completely clear and clarifying point.
Mm-hmm.
Do I shuffle the draw pile after I've looked through the entire thing, or do I have to keep it in the same order?
I wondered that
Neither
too.
It doesn't say.
I wondered that too because there's so many that give you an option to discard from your draw pile.
Yeah.
So you look at your whole draw pile,
Yeah.
you know exactly what's there. And most of the time I would say, no, that's okay. And I just put it down the exact way.
Right.
So I knew which cards were going to be coming out.
Right. And that makes sense. But why doesn't it? This is an example of how I'm sure that is the intent, that you're supposed to not shuffle your draw pile.
Well,
But
yeah, probably.
so a lack of words means that you don't do it, right? But all it would take was a single sentence: "Do not shuffle."
Sure.
Sure. I mean, and those, that's just a little, I know that's
yeah,
niggly
but
about
but
what's
every
going
time
on,
when I would look at my cards, I sort of felt like I was cheating by putting them down.
Yeah.
Like it would have been nice to know that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit like, is this fair that I know what's coming up? No.
Now, resources at the end of the game are not worth anything. It's just a matter of how many buildings that you've built, manuscripts. The different meeples in the castle are worth 1, 2, or 3 points, depending upon which tier they're on.
Right.
And then the debts and deeds, depending upon if they've been flipped, they are worth 3 points each, or 1 point each if they're not flipped for deeds. They're -2 points if you don't flip your debts. But depending upon which pile, debt or deed, that you depleted, the other type is worth a certain number of points for the person who flipped the most.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
And it's fine. But it's certainly something to be attentive to. But again, am I pushing towards the end?
Yeah.
And if so, am I then hurting myself because I'm taking more of a particular type and not getting a chance to flip them over? Or am I not pushing toward the end and therefore extending the game and possibly making it a tedious, horrible thing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, we decided to push the game, and
every
when you
single
pushed
time
it,
after that
when you
first
pushed
horrible
it,
one, yes.
then it works fine, and it's a good game. There are games obviously that we would prefer to play.
Yes.
But it is a solid game, and if I know lots of gamers would really appreciate it.
Yes, exactly. So again, this is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Solid game, but please, big chunk of salt that you need to realize. It may take you a while with that first one, and there are some rule vagaries that are in there that you might want to get cleared up. This again is by Shem Phillips and S.J. McDonald. Illustrations by Mahajlo Dmitrievsky, and of course, published by Garfield Games. All right, that'll do it for this week. We had 2 games. One, actually, both of them beautiful in unique ways.
Yeah.
I mean, the art style here in Viscounts is pretty interesting and very definitely unique. But canvas is gorgeous.
That is very beautiful.
Again, designed by Jeffrey Chin and Andrew Nerger. Illustrations by Luan Hyun and published by Road to Infamy Games. For 1 to 5 players, 14 plus 30 minutes. And then Viscounts of the West Kingdom, Shem Phillips and S.J. McDonald and Garfield Games. And it says 60 to 90 minutes. They're lying. And 1 to 4 players. Don't play with 4. And that's just with taking it. We haven't played it with 4, but we can project.
It takes us
painful.
It took, it takes us an hour and 15 hour. Yeah.
It was
an hour and a half to play this game. 2 people actively pushing towards the end.
Yes, exactly. All right, that'll do it for this week. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope your March is ending well. I hope there are more shots in arms out there in our audience, and that soon, very soon, we will be able to hang out over the gaming table and enjoy ourselves. Have a great week. Take care, and April's right around the corner.